Hello, this is John Feldt. Welcome to the weekly Water Outlook National Edition, March 9th, 2014. Well, this is the number of rain days or precipitation days over the last 7 days, and gives you some overview of what the hot spots were. Really, the Pacific Northwest and the Northwest U.S. with those areas in blue is indicating it's some precipitation almost every day of the week. But the Southeast U.S. was also a little bit busy. You can see that area of green as well as parts of the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes. Now we look at the past 7 days where the heaviest rain occurred. Definitely the Pacific Northwest with enhanced precipitation, very heavy precipitation. We have onshore flow, and when that jet stream pushes on shore, we get a lot of enhanced rain and snow. Parts of the middle part of the nation received up to 2 inches of rain. That's that area of yellow. And then we actually had quite a bit of mixed winter type precipitation in parts of the Carolinas into Virginia. Upper Midwest, which has been somewhat busy early this winter, remains somewhat quiet. There was one enhanced band of snow, but other than that, the upper Midwest was fairly quiet. So you can see areas that received above normal precipitation as indicated in blue and purple, areas that have been dry. Take note of Texas. Texas has been really dry lately. You can see another week of well below normal precipitation. Another little note here is this area of the Corn Belt has also been somewhat dry over the last week, and if we look a little bit further, we'll see that as well. Now, this is the departure from normal for 90 days. I'm going to talk a bit about, sort of reflect on the winter months here. This gives you if you just want one picture snapshot, where it's been wet or dry. And green means that there was a surplus of precipitation over this 90-day period. So you can see from Illinois into the Ohio Valley, parts of the Tennessee River Valley, parts of the Mid-Atlantic, some parts of the Southeast U.S. Have been pretty active over the winter, and soils are likely wetter in that area. If we look at the South, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, been very dry. If we look at the West, as we've heard all winter long, very dry. So that's sort of the story. The upper Midwest, fairly close to normal. Now, temperatures last week, it was another cold week. The purple was the unusually cold temperatures, and you can see that that pushed out to the west. Now, sort of interesting here, this is really this pattern I'm going to be talking about just a minute, but look, this here, this is very warm, and this has really been our pattern. We've had this real warm temperature here and this real cold temperature here. I'm going to give you a hint to the briefing. Good news is this is pushing up towards the to the east and to the northeast this week, so there's going to be a bit of a reprieve, at least early this week. So where's the snow on the ground? Well, here's a picture of where the snow's on the ground. The persistent snowpack, winter snowpack, is up in this area. It really hasn't changed a whole lot. Sort of in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, very brutal winter in that region, really very little snow melt. We have some lingering snow on the ground from past week's snow in North Carolina and Virginia. A couple remnants of snow bands that have all pretty light. That'll melt very quickly this week. We look at water equivalent. What's sort of interesting, keep your eye up here. Look at this water equivalent here. I'm going to be discussing that in just a moment here. Very high amounts of water equivalent in that snowpack, and also not insignificant amounts in here, but it's very isolated. So when that melts, I think rivers could go up from some runoff in these areas, but it's relatively isolated. Now, speaking of rivers, here's an overview. Yellow are high flows, but within bank. A couple spots in the southeast U.S. that are at moderate flood. That's that area in red. And, that's pretty typical for this time of year to have flooding over the southeast U.S., scattering of minor or maybe just isolated spots of moderate flood. Now, so far this winter, I said I was going to talk a bit about winter. You might remember me talking about this unusually warm temperatures in the Gulf of Alaska. Well, what has been occurring is this has been persistent through most of the winter, and the jet stream tends to rotate around this warmer water, and that's why we've had such unusually warm weather in Alaska. But in reflection of that upper ridge of high pressure, the jet stream has dipped into the U.S., and that's what's brought our very cold weather. Now, look at this here. This is the anomaly of atmospheric pressure, and purple is well below normal, and this red here is well above normal, and this is for a 90-day period. So it's saying that the pressure was unusually low in this area, unusually high, And when that pressure's high, that means we've had this ridge of high pressure bowing to the north with that warm air digging to the south, and there we go. That's been the pattern for the last 90 days in one form or the other. It's brought warm weather to the west into Alaska and very cold weather into the middle part of the nation, including parts of the southeast U.S., mid-Atlantic, and northeast throughout the winter. And I think there are a number of reasons for that, but that Pacific Northwest Gulf of Alaska unusually warm water was probably one of the main reasons that we've had this persistence of this pattern well throughout the winter. Now, if we look at the jet stream analysis this week, blues early this week, greens later in the week, and the most notable point to make here is that this area of the jet stream is going to be lifting up to the north early this week, and that's going to bring a reprieve in temperatures to a large part of the country that's been very, very cold. Now, later in the week, it looks like some of the jet stream will dig south, so it's likely that we could go back into colder temperatures, but probably not as cold as it has been. So here's a precipitation forecast for the next 7 days. You can see, generally speaking, no areas of excessive precipitation. And if we look at the snowfall forecast, the band in Iowa into Illinois, that's later in the period. We'll have to see if that does develop, but really nothing over the upper Midwest, the areas that have really received the heaviest snow. Now, this is sort of interesting. I want you to take a look at over the next 7 days snowmelt. And the heaviest snowpack is this area of white, bright pink and white. So you can see Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Michigan. And look, by the end of this week, we're down to just maybe 1 to 3 inches. So we're going to have a rapid snowmelt possibility this week over this region, and that's really going to pose a threat for flooding in the upper Mississippi and its tributaries. Okay, so let's review the temperature pattern. You know, when I look at this, I do see signs that we're trying to work our way into spring. It's going to come in sort of fits where we're going to get some really nice weather for parts of the nation early this week with that warm temperatures pushing into the Midwest. But then we're going to have another reinforcing push of cold air. So it's going to be frustrating in some parts of the nation. But I think generally speaking, these cold anomalies of temperature are beginning to wind down, and it won't be quite so bad. The other thing is we're getting into spring is climatologically the length of day and temperatures will be warming and offsetting that as well. So here's this week. The warmer air is pushing into the middle part of the nation. Over the northeast U.S., blue is cooler than normal. Then March 14th through 19th, I think what to look at here, this warmer air is pushing further into the Midwest, but we still have that vulnerability from the Great Lakes into the northeast U.S., maybe even the southeast U.S. for colder temperatures, but not nearly as extreme as before. And then as we get into mid-March 19th through 24th, you can see again the overall extreme of temperatures. It's still vulnerable to below normal temperatures, but not as much, and we get large parts of the country near normal. So I think spring's working its way in, but it's going to be gradual. If we look at precipitation, yellow's below normal, fairly quiet week. There will be some precipitation, there will be some snow, fairly quiet next week as well. So it looks like a quiet period as far as precipitation. So your takeaway, a building ridge, a warm start to the week into the Midwest, colder, but not quite as much later in the week, and probably we're seeing some initial transitions to spring. Nice talking with you all. I hope you have a nice week. Be briefing you again next weekend.